Hello everyone, it is November 20th, 2017, and that means today is officially the 10th anniversary of the release of the first Mass Effect game. It was originally released exclusively for the Xbox 360, although what you're seeing here is a much later version of it that came out on the PlayStation 3. This game means a hell of a lot to me. This trilogy means a hell of a lot to me and a whole lot of other people, so I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about it. I remember back when this game was in development and when it was first announced, I was on game trailers all the time. I was consuming content for upcoming video games on that on a daily basis when I saw a trailer for a new BioWare game. Now, I had been previously familiar with BioWare from their work on Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, a game for the original Xbox and PC that I absolutely adored. And this was promising to be a new RPG from them. Color me excited. It was going to be science fiction. Color me pumped up for that. They were going to establish their own world. Color me pumped up for that as well. I'm well on board by this point, and that was before they even told us, hey, it's going to be a trilogy. Okay, that sounds really cool. You're going to tell a big epic scale story across 3 games? Not only that, but they said the character you create in the first game will transfer to the second game as well as the third game. And decisions you make in the first game will affect things in the second game. Decisions you make in the second game will affect things in the third game. All of this basically turned out to be true because there are important decisions that you'll make across these games that will affect how the other 2 play out. But what they also promised was that all of your decisions would culminate in how the series as a whole ended. That part kind of didn't come to pass, sadly, but ranting about the ending of Mass Effect 3 is a rant best left for another time. We're here to look back at the very first game. The game that you're looking at right now. This is Eden Prime, the very first mission of the very first game. And this is kind of where everybody's expectations started with. It's a great setup for the story. The part on the ship before this really gives you a good idea of how the dialogue system works without having to make any too ultra important decisions before you're used to it. And I kind of like that setup. It lets you decide a few very simple, minor, basic things before it throws you into any heavy-handed decisions, which it would do later on in the game. And then it sends you down to the planet where you get into combat for the first time. And when you play the combat, it plays out similarly to a cover-based technical third-person shooter. It's not all that in-depth, and the combat really isn't what shines about this game. The combat's okay. It's not mind-blowing, but it's decent enough. It gets the job done. It's adequate, but let me just say that is not what's going to keep you coming back to this. The extremely well-written dialogue and fantastic characters that you run into over the course of this game is what will keep you coming back. The lore in this series is so incredibly in-depth that it rivals the likes of Star Wars or Star Trek, and that I'm not sure I can be more complimentary to them. I mean, every single thing you could ever possibly want to know about the Mass Effect universe is hidden away in a data log. And it is wonderful if you want to dig through it. There is so incredibly much depth. Every single race, you want to know their histories, you want to know their tactics in war, you want to know their politics, you want to know how they go about having relationships, all that kind of stuff. It's all here. They put so much thought into creating this universe that it is absolutely incredible just how much depth this game has from the lore alone. And the thing about that is it's pretty much all optional. You don't have to go through and read any of it to understand the story and the basics of it and what's going on. It conveys all that through in-game dialogue and cutscenes, which there's plenty of. for you to get used to over the course of this game, and it's a fairly lengthy game. It'll keep you busy for a good 40, 50 hours, just the first one alone. You're looking at 150 plus if you decide to do the entire trilogy, and I would recommend it, even though it may not end on the best note. That's going back to the complaints about the ending of Mass Effect 3, which I'm sure if you're familiar with this series, you've heard about the controversies that caused. But this game actually had a pretty damn satisfactory ending. It gave you a satisfactory ending that felt like a good finale, while letting you know that the story isn't over. And that is kind of hard to pull off. It's kind of hard to walk a thin balance of this story feels satisfactory on its own, but it also, there's more to it that we haven't gotten to. That is a very, very hard balance to walk, and this game does it beautifully. But there's so much more to like about this game. The music is excellent. It's instantly recognizable as music from the Mass Effect games. When you hear it, you know. And it's often subtle. It's not the most catchy thing in the world. But when you hear it, you recognize it instantly. And it kind of sticks with you in this sense. And it works extremely well. When it needs to be emotional, it is. When it needs to be action driving, it is. It's pretty much always on point for whatever it needs to be. A lot of the tracks are music that you're going to hear over and over again over the course of the game, such as the nature of such a long role-playing game, and the fact that you don't get sick of any of it playing through this game is a testament to how good it is in the first place. Graphically, this game was just astounding for its time. It was very, very good looking. The animations were nice and believable, and it had a very cool art style that you pretty much instantly recognized as being Mass Effect when you see it. There's nothing else that quite looks like this. It's got this sleek, futuristic sci-fi look. And one feature that I love about this game is you can turn on and off a film grain feature, which they were going for like a 60s or 70s kind of sci-fi vibe with that I really, really like that feature added in. It's a really nice touch for what they were going for with this first game. And this game really kind of set out to give you a feeling of you're an explorer. And it works exceptionally well in a way. Like, you're going to explore a ton of uncharted planets on this, and they can be kind of samey, I suppose. But there's just something that's so cool about traveling down to the surface of an uncharted planet and driving across it. Even though the Mako controls are not the best, there's still something really, really cool about, oh, we're the first to go down to this planet and discover it kind of thing. And you get that sense over and over the course of this game, and it never really gets old. You'll go to one planet after another, and every single time you do, it's like, oh, I'm discovering a new planet. That's so fucking cool. And it really kind of adds to the sense of openness and the sense of exploration and the wonderment that this game brings to the table. It is wonderful. I love that about this game. Now, this game was, when it came out, was an Xbox 360 exclusive. At the time that I was watching all the information pop up on game trailers, I was consuming trailers, I was watching developer interviews, and everything else in between. Every single feature I could watch on this game, I was watching, and I was waiting for the next one, because I was so highly anticipating this game. I did not have an Xbox 360 at the time. I wasn't even sure that I wanted an Xbox 360 at the time. It was because of Mass Effect that I wound up getting an Xbox 360 in the first place. I wanted this game so bad that I was willing to get a new console for it. And you know what? It was worth it. That's how good this game is. I bought a new console for this game, and I didn't regret it. I bought it for one game, and I didn't regret it. Now, obviously, I went on to play other things on this console. I played a lot of other games on this console and had a lot of fun with it. But I bought it for Mass Effect, not knowing that years later down the line it would come to the PlayStation 3, which, again, you're looking at the PlayStation 3 version right now. It's practically identical to the original Xbox version. As much as I love Mass Effect 1, it's not a perfect game. There are definitely problems here. The Mako is way too bouncy and can be very difficult to control. It's hard to describe exactly how the Mako controls. It's kind of floaty. It kind of bounces all over the place and will kind of spin and turn in midair and do all kinds of things that you kind of wish it wouldn't do. So that makes the exploration of the planets can be a little bit frustrating because of that. Also, the enemy AI really isn't that smart, but the combat is, again, not the big focus, so that probably is not going to be too much of a big problem for players. But it's still notable. The combat did get better in the second and third game, but in this first game it's still pretty bare bones. The dialogue wheel is not perfect either. You get a description of what your character might say, and you select that, and it might not be exactly what he says, so there can be some disconnect between what you think you selected and what your character actually says at times. It's nowhere near as egregious as something like Fallout 4, but it can be a problem that has been pointed out in the past by some players. Also, a lot of the Cerberus facilities that you will come across over the course of this game can look kind of samey, as can a lot of the planets. The planets will look similar with different colors, swaps, and different filters and stuff like that over them to give a little bit of a different feel, but at the end of the day, they do kind of tend to blend together a little bit. And again, what can you expect when you're traveling from one uncharted planet to the next? I can't get your hopes up too high, but I can't bring myself to be bothered too much by any of this because of the sense of exploration and the wonderment and just everything that this game does extremely well far outshines everything that it didn't do all that well. And a lot of what it didn't do all that well were fixed in Mass Effect 2, which is most definitely a superior game. But that's not to say that this one's any slouch by any stretch of the imagination. This was an absolutely amazing game that was well deserving of all the praise that it got. And if you've never played this game or this trilogy, I would highly recommend picking up this trilogy for PC or Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3. You can get it on any of those. You can also get Mass Effect 3 on the Wii U, I believe. But I don't think you can get 1 and 2 on it. So keep that in mind if that's the platform you're going to go for. You can't get the full experience of this trilogy. But it is well worth your time to go back and play through this. These are just some of the best games of the past generation, especially 1 and 2. A couple of the best RPGs ever made. I adore these games. The writing is just phenomenal. The characters are wonderful and incredibly in-depth. The music is beautiful. The art direction is gorgeous. There is so much to love about Mass Effect, so I just wanted to take the time to say happy birthday, Mass Effect, and thank you for the memories. And I hope to one day see this series return to its former glory after the disappointment that is Andromeda in the eyes of many. The Mass Effect series was wonderful, and it certainly deserves better than that. Thank you everybody for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe down below. It would be greatly appreciated, and we will talk to you guys next time. Thanks everybody, and goodbye.